we are going to go over our coloring course towards the educational courses we're giving. So first things first, we're going to go over color, how to go from dark to light, and how to go from light to dark, because there's two very different ways on how to do each and every one, and there's also rules we have to follow in order to ensure that the hair is evenly colored and done in the correct way without so much damage. First of all, because we're using very harsh chemicals on the hair when we're coloring it and altering the color or the appearance of the hair. So it's really important to follow the rules that are given to each and every hair type that you have in order to maintain integrity of the hair. So first things first, let's go in about box dye. A lot of people use a hair box dye that's bought at Walmart, bought at Walgreens, Rite Aid, and we see these celebrities on the cover of these box dyes and we think that our hair is going to turn out that same way. Well, I'm going to just say this loud and clear. Your hair is not going to turn out the way the celebrity or the model that looks on the box dye hair turned out, because they most likely went to a professional to get their hair colored and then just went in and took a photo shoot and they placed it on the box. So when you're working with box dye that's bought at Walmart or at Rite Aid, you're really not formulating the actual formula for the hair that you're looking at. You're just kind of taking whatever's in the box and just popping it on the hair and hoping for the best. That's why this is really not good to use on your hair. One size does not fit all, especially for hair color. Each and every hair color and texture that you begin to work with at the start of your color service needs a different formula depending on its underlying pigment, depending on the natural color that you're working with. These are things that you really need to take into consideration before coloring the hair. So when you grab a box dye off the shelf, it's like a one size fits all kind of thing where even if you buy jeans, you know that jeans don't fit all within one size. You need to go in, try on a couple sizes and see which one fits best. So when you're doing your hair, you need to take that same energy and consider it for your hair and not really go towards these harsh box dyes that kind of just plug everything in one box and just hope for the best, because what they're doing is they're using the highest percentage of hydrogen peroxide on each and every box that there is, because they want to make sure that you're getting a result. When in reality, when you're formulating for hair, when you're in the salon or you have a client that comes to you, you actually are going through and seeing what type of developer or amount of hydrogen peroxide you're going to need for each and every hair type. Someone might only need 10%, which is to deposit color into the hair, which is when you're going darker. Someone might only need 20%. Some might only need 30%. And then there's some that do need the 40%. So most likely in the box size, everyone's going towards the highest amount of hydrogen peroxide, which leans more towards 30 to 40% of the developers that are used on clients in the salon. So if your hair is particularly damaged or previously colored, this can really further damage your hair in order for it to be almost like it just can't come back to life, or you can't bring it back. Another thing to consider is that when you're doing box dye, they have something called metallic salts that are in it that are really damaging towards the hair. Another thing to consider is that when you do box dye, if you want to be any other color but that exact box dye that you use, it's going to be extremely hard and extremely costly. I cannot tell you how many clients I've had that gone black box dye or even brown box dye, and they come in and they want to be like their natural level blonde again. And it's sad to say, but it's impossible. It's literally impossible to go back to your natural color after box dye, even with the color remover, even with your best services. On top of that, you're not going to walk out with the color that you originally wanted. You're going to walk out with whatever you're able to get, because box dye is really unpredictable when working with the hair. Also, it's also good to take into consideration that if you want any other color, or you're trying to go back to your original color, it's not going to happen, and you're most likely going to have to cut that portion of your hair out in order to go back to your original color that you wanted. It's also really, really expensive. It's really expensive. A color service that probably would have been, $100 or $60 now is going to cost you from $200 to $500 because it's considered a color correction, not just a simple dye. So when we use professional dyes, you're able to be versatile and go from one color to another color because they don't use those metallic salts inside of the formulas that we use, and they also use the right percentage of hydrogen peroxide, so the integrity of your hair is kept at a good integrity, so you're not really worried about too much damage. So we're going to talk about color servicing. So there's two ways you can usually go with this. You're either going from light to dark or from dark to light. So the first one we're going to talk about is going from light to dark. If you've had your hair previously colored, or you're a natural level blonde and you want a more of a chocolatey brown, or you just want to, go a little bit darker with your hair tone, there are rules to going darker. So the rule is if you're going 3 shades darker than your actual tone that you have on your hair, if you were going 3 shades darker than the actual tone you have on your hair at the moment, you are going to need something called a color filler. A color filler is a semi-permanent color that adds back the warm tones into your hair so that the permanent color can stick and look even throughout the hair. If you don't use a color filler, the light hair is just going to spit back out the color, and it's going to form patches, or it's even just not going to stick to the hair at all. So that's really, really bad. When you want to color your hair darker, you want a nice even coat. Think of it as like painting a wall. When you paint a wall, you often have to use a primer before you actually paint the wall so that the wall looks like it's an even color. It's the same with your hair. You have to start off with your primer, and then you can go in with the actual color you want to be in order for you to have an even hair color. An even hair color, and also hair color that's going to last. So the color filler, we also said that it's like a primer to the hair, or a primer to a wall that you're going to paint. This is only going to sit on the hair for 10 to 20 minutes. So it's not really a service that takes a long time, but it's really, really crucial when going from lighter hair to darker hair if you're going outside of the 3 shades, because the hair is not going to look even, and it just might stick back out the color if you do not use the filler. So it's really important to discover what the hair is at its natural level and discover where you're trying to go with the hair in order to determine if you're going to need a filler or not. So the service is only 10 to 20 minutes. You wash that out, you dry the hair, and then you can apply the permanent color. And the permanent color will sit on for about 30 to 40 minutes, depending on what brand you're using or your manufacturer's directions. So you're going to have to go into your instructions on the box you're using in order to determine how long the permanent color will be on for. But main points of this video are to understand that if your hair is going 3 levels darker or more, you are going to need a hair filler. You cannot forget this step, and if you include this step, you will not have to go back and redo the color service, so it will save you a lot of time. Now we can talk about going from darker hair to lighter hair. So this step is often used with bleach or lightener, they would call it. If you're not using a bleach or lightener, you can also use a high lift series. So that's often performed on hair that is virgin or just hasn't been touched before. That's what virgin hair is. So we're mainly going to talk about how to use lightener or what they call bleach on the hair, because this is the main thing that's used, because most people do have their hair previously colored Most people's hair is not virgin. If you do get virgin hair, like, oh joy, because your service is going to be so much more easier. But if not, it's okay. As long as you don't have box dye on your hair, it is very much manageable to get to the desired blonde or copper or golden tone that you want to be for that day. So, the first step to going lighter is to determine what your client wants. It's really important to go through a consultation with your client before you go in and just start slapping bleach on the hair. You need to discuss what they desire, what they believe their end result should look like, and if it's even possible within that day. You should not go more than 4 to 5 shades lighter within one day because it's not really healthy for the hair. So just work within that, and you can always go back for another session, and this is going to ensure that the integrity of the hair is still okay. Like, there's nothing worse than having a lightening service and combing through the hair and there's hair falling out, there's hair ripping out, there's hair that's gooey or stringy because you've left the lightener on too long, or you were trying to do too much lightening within one day and the hair just couldn't take it. So the first step is to really go through with the consultation and your client and see what kind of hair type they also have and see what's possible for them for that day. Not to just go in and say, yes, we can do this, we can make you a platinum blonde, when it's not going to be the healthiest alternative for the hair. Slow and steady always wins the race when it comes to coloring your hair lighter. So we're talking about going lighter with the hair color or hair tones with bleach. So the first step to doing that is the consultation. You have to make sure the hair is healthy enough to withstand the lightener that you're going to be using on the hair for that day. Also determine what type of technique you're going to be using and the desired result that your client is looking to find within that day. Once you do that, you can go on in and start to formulate what lightener, what developer to use, and also it's great to add in a bond builder. This is something that they just not recently came out with, but they didn't really have back in the day. But what it does is it rebuilds the bonds, the protein bonds in the hair, as you're breaking up the bonds in the hair from the lightener. Now, this is a really, really harsh chemical. Bleach is one of the most dangerous chemicals to use on the hair, so you have to be really, really careful and timely when working with this chemical on the hair. So it's best to add a bond builder to add strength back into the hair as you're taking away from the hair. I always use a bond builder such as Brazilian bond builder, Olaplex, or even a Wella bond builder to the hair as I'm doing a lightening service in order to ensure the integrity of the hair, because the main thing you want to keep is the integrity of the hair. You can always go back and do more sessions within a couple of weeks. For that service though, for that day, it's best to go within the levels you're able to go and keep the hair on the head. When working to get hair blonder, it's best to leave the lightener or bleach on the hair for only 30 to 45 minutes and then wash the hair out. Now, this is usually the amount of time that you're supposed to use within the time frame for your client that you're working with in order to ensure that the hair isn't extremely damaged when you take the coils out or when you wash the lightener off. So this is best used at your discretion. Some people do leave it on for slightly longer, but it's not really recommended. Once the lightener is rinsed out though, you can go in with something called a toner. The toner is used to manipulate the tone of blonde you want to see on the hair. So when you're using a lightener, you're usually just unveiling the underlying pigment. So if you're going like really, really light, the blonde is probably looking white. If you're having like a level 7 or 8, the hair usually has like a chicken fat yellow color. When you're going back down, it starts to get more brassy and orangey looking. So what the toner does is it kind of manipulates what's going on with the hair in order to make it look more like a hair color and less like an underlying pigment color. This is a factor that a lot of box dyes or box bleach are missing within their boxes, and it's leaving people with having orange looking hair or yellow looking hair or hair that just looks really abnormal. So what the toner does is it can bring you to be a warm blonde or a cool blonde, depending on what you want to formulate and how you want to formulate it. So once that's all said and done, the toner usually only stays on for about 10 to 15 minutes. You wash that out, and then you go in with your conditioner to seal the cuticle. Now when you're using lightener, you're opening up the cuticle, you're releasing a lot of things, you're taking away from the hair. So it's good to go in with a nice deep conditioner in order to restore the nutrients back into the hair and to seal the cuticle. That's really, really crucial when working with lightening the hair. So we've gone over the techniques to use when doing a color service, whether you're going lighter or going darker within the hair. Now we're going to talk about how to care for the hair after the service is done. So we're going to start off with hair that is going lighter. When you're going lighter with your hair, it is always recommended to buy a purple shampoo to wash with your hair at least once a week. Now, purple shampoo is what's used to kind of take away the warmer tones or the brassier tones that are left in the hair due to water, minerals inside of the water, or even shampoo that's left in the hair. So this doesn't act as a toner, but it helps to just refresh the cooler tones in the hair and reduce brassiness. Now, after you're done using your purple shampoo, it's definitely recommended to use a very hydrating conditioner because this can be sort of drying to the hair, which is why you only want to use it more than likely once a week. Any more than that, it might dry out your hair too much, but each and every one's hair is different, so use it at your discretion. And you're also supposed to leave it in for about 5 to 10 minutes in the shower. I don't know if I would go in for 10 minutes because sometimes it does leave a purplish or bluish hue to extremely light hair. So you kind of want to leave it in for, about 5 minutes at the most and just see where it goes from there. But like I said, it's best to use your own discretion to see what works best for your hair color. It's also recommended that every 4 to 6 weeks you go in for a root touch-up if you're getting highlights or you're getting a bleach and tone service. If you're doing more of a sombre or a balayage, you don't have to go in as many times. You can actually elongate your service to month-to-month service within like 3 months or 4 months. You should go back in depending on what your style is. But it is recommended to go in for a toner every 2 to 3 months if you're having a balayage or highlights or a bleach and tone, because your toner is not a permanent color. It's getting washed out every time you wash your hair. So when you go in, you can just get a nice refresh on the tones of your hair to refresh the blonde and have it not look so brassy or look like the hair is dull or washed out. So that's what you can do in order to elongate your highlights or your lightening color service. So now we'll talk about hair that is going darker and how to care for it. Often though, you can use the same techniques for darker hair that you use on lighter hair because it's all color treated hair. So the only thing that's going to be different within darker and lighter hair is the fact that you have to use purple shampoo on hair that's going lighter. So for darker hair, it's really, really important to use a shampoo and conditioner that is sulfate free. Like, you cannot use a shampoo or conditioner that has sulfate in it, and this is because it washes out the hair tone. It washes out the toner of the hair, it washes out the expensive dye that you just got and the color service you just got, because the sulfate is what strips the hair of its oils, it's what strips the hair of its grime and its buildup, and it's also what strips the hair of its color that you previously put on. So it's really, really important to go in and just get a color safe shampoo that is sulfate free. This way, your hair coloring service that you just paid for is going to last you the amount of time it needs to last you before you go in and get a retouch or get a toner or a semi-permanent over the color that you just got in order to get a refresh. So now that we've gone over how to wash the hair, it's also really important to understand that after you get your hair lightened, you need to take caution into how much heat you use on your hair. Now, once you go lighter, if you're not a natural blonde or you don't have naturally fine or light hair, you probably wouldn't know that you need to use gentler substances on your hair because your hair is going to be more fragile at this point. You need to reduce your flat irons or your curling irons down to the appropriate level for it, which is usually no more than 300 degrees when working with previously lightened hair. As for darker hair, it depends on the texture and it depends on if your hair is medium or thick in order to determine what temperature your heat tool should be set at. Other than that, that is mainly how to care for each and every color hair service. So we're gonna also go in and do demonstration and further explain how to care for the hair and the different techniques that are used on the hair, whether you're going lighter or going darker.